Welcome to Power Yourself, where I talk about the most important topic in the world, you. So welcome to another episode of Power Yourself. Today we're going to have a conversation about forgiveness. What is it? What is forgiving yourself? And what is it to forgive other people? To have this conversation, I'm lucky enough to have Lindsay Morton back into the studio. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So basically, today's concept, all we're going to do is let's have a conversation about forgiveness. So starting off today with, what is it? What is it to us? What is forgiveness? And what has it maybe evolved to the version that we see it now?
Yeah, this is going to get real, I think.
Real and figuring it out along the way kind of thing. So forgiveness, I'll start off with what it is. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, I mentioned how forgiveness to me, it used to be, I forgive, but I never forget. And so way back in the years, that's always what I thought forgiveness was. Forgiving people, but you always remember kind of thing. And you always, in a way, you still hold it against them. Like you are resistant, you are more reserved, you don't trust as much, stuff like that. So over the later couple of years, I would say that definition has expanded for me. So now it's about being able to forgive and actually let go.
Right.
Yeah. So for yourself, maybe have you noticed a change over the years for you? Or has it always been just one thing?
Even when you brought up doing this topic, I was like, yeah, super excited about talking about it because I think it is so important. But I got a little resistant towards it. I was like, okay. Because it's that mirror, right? It's flipping that mirror, being like, where am I using forgiveness correctly, for lack of a better word, or where am I not forgiving? So yeah, I did have a bit of resistance towards that because I think forgiveness as a practice is probably newer to my journey. And yeah, I was just very curious when that came up.
I enjoy those tense moments that you kind of feel that resistance within yourself because you're like, oh, work. There's something there. There is something there.
Yeah.
And that's exciting because you get to learn something about it. What's popping up for you? Why is this uncomfortable feeling or resistance, as you called it, showing up for me?
Right.
Yeah. So to forgive people and actually to forgive yourself, two huge concepts.
Yeah.
So let's start with, because I think forgiving yourself is a bigger chunk.
That I totally agree.
Yeah. And more conscious effort. So let's start off with forgiving other people.
So this is my question to you.
Ooh, the tables have turned.
Do you think, and again, I'm just throwing this out there, do you think self-forgiveness has to occur before forgiveness towards other people can occur? But, and maybe it is, they happen side by side, because to me, I think the self-forgiveness is a lot bigger process than forgiving others.
Well played, Lindsay, well played. But that's it. So you're nailing an essential piece of what I feel forgiveness is. It's almost the same as I've talked about self-love before. So I feel that you need to love yourself before you can essentially love on a deeper level other people. And I think that's essentially the same with forgiveness. The more we forgive ourselves for making a mistake or stumbling or not behaving the way that we would like to see ourselves behave on a more natural, frequent basis, I think it's an essential step, because by being able to forgive yourself and let go of, hey, yeah, that wasn't ideal, or hey, yeah, I did make a mistake. What did I learn? How can I move on? Then I feel that we can actually forgive other people. So it's like that empathy building, right? So we're forgiving ourselves. We know how much effort it takes to consciously try in day to day, and how easy it is to stumble when we haven't had our right sleep, or we haven't had our food, or we haven't had a good day. And we have to be able to see how hard that is for other people as well.
Yeah. And does it get easier once you've kind of worked it out with yourself to then forgive others? I mean, I think there's probably degrees of forgiveness. Like there are horrible, tragic things that have occurred to people that probably I would never understand. And I'm not sure how you could even, I'm not sure how your forgiveness practice looks when, you know, you've suffered from.
How it would work on that magnitude. When
Yeah,
it's something
the
bigger.
magnitude.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
So,
And I feel though, if we don't forgive, what's happening? So what's going to happen? So yes, I totally get everybody has to forgive on different levels, let's say, throughout life. Some small things, some bigger things, some catastrophic things. And yet we have to be able to show up and consciously try to let go of it. Because if we don't, and this is just my thoughts, I feel by holding on to it, we're resenting, we're fermenting almost, we're getting that toxicity happening, and that's stressing our bodies out.
well, and again, this is what I know, and it's only my opinion, but bringing it back to the yogic philosophy, all that really exists anymore is the present moment. So by the future doesn't exist yet, and the past has already happened. So all that we have is this present moment. So by tying up our energy in the past, it's draining us. It's manifesting, like you said, in illness, in stress. When all that matters is right now.
And that's such an important thing for me to live by, that being in the present moment. And I know how hard that is. It's so conscious, right? Like I feel like I'm there and it's like, oh, squirrel. Oh, no, here again. Oh, squirrel. Like it's a conscious refocus to stay in those present moments. So that's exactly it. When we're holding on to something, or when we're reliving maybe how things shoulda, coulda kind of have gone, you're totally right. You're nailing it. It's taking us away from the gift of that present moment. It's almost derailing us. It's almost like our ego in a way is distracting us from being present.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think if you're flopping back to the past, because forgiveness would be about what's happened in the past, and we're constantly reverting back to what happened, you're carrying those same patterns with you into your kind of day-to-day life, or moving towards into the future. So if you're energetically linked to what happened in the past and you can't let that go, you're almost carrying that pattern with you over and over into your life. So it's that energy connection.
And think about that. Think about when you or somebody you know, because I can think about myself in a number of situations where you haven't really let go of something, and you're showing up and you're interacting with that person or another, and that's there. You know, that hostility, that almost like I'm hunching my body over now in like just thinking about it, that feeling of tense or stress. When, wow, that's like, first of all, how is that in your actual relationships if you're still holding on to that stuff? And how is that for yourself? Like, what's happening inside your body stress wise, and how is that manifesting? Like, I wonder, like headaches, being drained, being depressed, being sleepy. Exactly. The physical stuff, right? Like, so by not letting go, I think it comes to a point where we're harming ourselves when we don't forgive and actually let go.
And I always think about it like you have a finite amount of energy at this moment. And you know you have to give a certain percentage of it to work, a certain percentage of it to your relationships, family, friends, and however else you choose to spend your energy. So working out, I don't know, playing music, however you choose. But but part of that energy, that, you know, finite amount, is being sucked up by something in the past and draining on you. Like, life doesn't have to be that hard, right?
That's beautiful in a way, because it doesn't, right? Like, it doesn't have to be that difficult. You don't need to be that stressed.
You don't need to struggle this much.
And the sad thing is, and easy for me to sit here and talk to you about it.
Exactly.
We understand and can totally comprehend and empathize how hard it is in that moment to actually conceptualize. Mm-hmm. And we get, like, I know we've all been through our past, you know, forgiveness, and we realize how hard that actually is to do. And it's a choice.
That actually, when I was thinking about this, that word kept coming up as well for me too.
It is. It's a choice. Mm-hmm. It's a choice. If I want to say, you know what, Lindsay, I'm going to hold that against you. I'm going to hang on to it. I'm going to stress myself out because you don't know any different. Like, if I'm not having that conversation, and I'm choosing to feel that way versus, hey, being able to empathize, connect with yourself, realize how hard it is to forgive yourself and how hard we judge ourselves, and then empathizing with how the other person might feel and actually forgiving them and letting it go. It's a choice to let go. And it's so funny, even saying let go, it makes your shoulders, right? Like, it's holding on to something. You feel that tense, that almost like stressed out posture, versus letting go. Your shoulders relax, your facial features just go at that state of calmness versus stress. And that's the choice.
Yeah. And there's choice in everything. Yeah. And it seems like the most simple concept to me, but sometimes I have to remind myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a choice whether I'm going to show up one way or the other, or I'm going to perceive my situation one way or another, or am I going to choose to, you know, harbor resentment and anger and whatever other emotions come along towards something that happened in my past. It's my choice now, and we got to choose ease, and, you know.
So then that's the thing.
Again, I'm like scrunching up my face here because it just seems so easy and simple,
and yet we choose not to do it sometimes. Yeah. So what happens? Like, what are those times that stands out that makes us be like, no, I don't want to let go of this. I'd rather feel that stress, because you're right. If we looked on every topic we've ever done, every conversation you've ever had, it's choice. Mm-hmm. It's choice how you show up. It's choice how you interact. It's choice the words you speak. It's choice the thoughts you think in your head. Always choice. So why then do we make the choice sometimes to not let go?
But I also think maybe in the moment that something happens to you, it serves you at that point to be mad, to be angry. It's almost like that fight or flight, right? Like your body's going into some kind of survival mode. So it serves you to a point to be angry and to be sad or whatever it is, because you I don't think you can come through to the other side without feeling everything up to a point. Mm-hmm. And then, you make the choice. Well, I'm done feeling this way. But you almost use that, again, I'm thinking fight or flight, just because that is the body's innate nature, that you use that to kind of facilitate you towards it's your tipping point towards.
And it's the self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's the knowing, oh, I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling resentment. I'm feeling sadness. What's happening for me? You're totally right. It helps evolve you in through the process of what actually went wrong for you, or what's happening. Why are you having a struggle here to let go? And I wonder how much of it is ego in a way too.
Right.
You know, that's my balance with forgiveness. If I haven't truly forgiven somebody or myself, then I say, why? What's happening here? What is this actually about? Because sometimes it's not even about them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it's about a deeply held value that I believe is my truth is being compromised, or maybe I haven't showed up in the way I want it, and I'm transferring those feelings onto somebody else. So that's usually my question. I get, and I think you're spot on with having to go through the emotions, and then it becomes a choice. Why am I feeling this way? And am I going to spend the time to actually reflect and think?
And I mean, sometimes it just feels good to be angry and you know what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it just feels good to kind of be resentful for a minute. And but yeah, recognizing what do you give yourself, you know, here's your 5 minutes or whatever your time frame is, here's your month, here's your however long you get that to, because the goal, is not to push away your emotions and not experience those, because we have to have both in order to.
And we have to feel them.
Yeah.
Like I feel if, you know, it's going on a different topic, absolutely. But if we don't feel them, we're going to repress them, and it's going to start to spring up in other places. Definitely not talking about suppressing or dodging or not consciously going there. Absolutely. You have to go there. You have to live the emotion. You have to feel it and then choose. Like I always find when I do get those anger moments, like traffic for me is still like, it drives me nuts. Like, that is my tester. Like, I think I'm like, good job, Jill. You're doing amazing. Awesome job doing all your practices. And you put me in a car and you put somebody who's not consciously present and they scoot across and almost cause an accident and rage.
I'm the same. Sometimes I get in the car and I'm like, who was that person?
Exactly. I'm like,
me.
Wow, I talk about this. This is what I do for my living. Like I talk about being accountable. And I get how hard that is in the moment when you're totally right. Fight or flight response kicks in. I'm not using my rational brain. No oxygen is there right now. I'm totally driven off emotion. And yet, after those moments, I feel horrible. I do. I feel like, wow, Jill, you really didn't practice what you preached there.
Well, and that's a good point. And again, I think I'm going to be asking more questions than anything on right now. But do you feel like a better person? Do you feel like your more expanded self, your most authentic, true self, living in the present moment when you're not in forgiveness with somebody? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Expand a little bit more. I'm interested here.
So when you think about something that happened in your past, I think like romantic relationships are an easy reference for everybody. I think we've all experienced that.
Yep.
But when you're like, oh, that guy, he was such an... Am I allowed to swear on?
Yeah, go man. Whatever speaks your truth, Lindsay, speak it.
He was such an asshole and, you know, he hurt me and blah, blah, blah. Is that making you feel like I think at the time it's serving you to kind of complain, but you never feel like, oh yeah, I'm so I'm in my truth right now. I'm my best possible person right now. Like
as you're going through it, you mean? Okay.
Yeah. Like
so that becomes another concept here. This is so good. It becomes a concept of, can you forgive when you're in that moment, or does it take time? So,
okay.
Right? Because when you are still living those high emotions, can you actually forgive? Can you let go of it?
No.
And I think that goes exactly to the point of what you said. You have to live the emotional piece. You have to recognize, you have to go through it, I think, then to be able to actually forgive. That's a great one. Full circle, right from you. And I look back. So romantic relationships, you totally nail it. Absolutely. Everybody, if we got everybody to text, phone, let us know. Every single person has those relationships. And I knew I think my aha moment, I guess, of forgiveness was when I stopped looking at how things shoulda or could have been, or how they should have treated me, or how I should have responded when they did this to me. And I go, God, I am so happy with my life right now. I am so happy with the version of me who is here in this moment. And I would not be that person without what I've gone through. So for that, I genuinely look at the people who maybe weren't that great to me, or who maybe I wasn't that great to. And I go, thank you. I'm sorry that we weren't our best selves with each other, but I am so appreciative of where I am in this moment that I have nothing but love and forgiveness for all of those non-perfect moments.
And I think that's the beautiful example of the forgiveness process.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't do that at that time.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Going through the moment of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even there's a few things in my life recently that I've probably been caught up on. And I listened to, I was driving out to BC by myself, so I was podcast central.
Love it. Podcast, audiobooks, all the way.
Yeah. And so I was listening to a podcast, and I think it was the guy who, is it The Miracle Morning?
I don't know that one.
Is that a book?
Oh, is it a book or is it a podcast?
I think it's a book.
Okay.
So he was on a podcast I was listening to, and he was saying that you look back on these moments and you can't change it. You can't change what happened. Nope. And that was a big aha moment for me. Instead of, like you were saying, well, I should have done this. They should have been better to me. I should have said this. You can't change it.
Because you can go down that deep, dark road and you can shame yourself. Wow, I can't believe it. I put up with that. Wow, I can't believe it. I responded that way. Absolutely. You can go down a pretty dark, dark road. And the reality is, you're perfectly saying it. You can't change it.
It's happened. It's done.
It was your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I think we were talking about that before, acceptance versus forgiveness. So do you have to move through that acceptance portion? So you can't change it. It is what it is. To move into forgiveness. And I think that is currently my lesson. So
acceptance that it was the reality.
Yeah.
And that it's permanent.
And it happened.
Yeah.
And there's nothing
changeable.
Nothing changeable. Yeah.
So guys, just to recap, we're not coming at you with any answers today. It's a full-on conversation. It's just something I've seen a lot of in my classes that I'm teaching, that people holding on, resenting stuff. And I was like, wow, what a powerful conversation to have. We have to forgive ourselves and other people so much. And I don't think we have enough conversations about how hard it is. And you know what? How sometimes we just want to stand on that soapbox and we want to say, it's not just, it's not right. And yet we have to learn how to do it. So really just having a conversation here with Lindsay today, very appreciative and loving that you're showing up and just being here in this moment with me, kind of, because we don't have a script. We don't have a guide today. We're just full on going in, being present in conversation and talking about the ups and downs really of forgiveness. So with that being said, let's go back to the concept of, do you have to accept to actually forgive?
And maybe that is part of our how-to guide we're creating.
As you guys listen, we are actually creating how to forgive.
I wish it was that easy.
But what works, right? Like, it comes to what has worked. And I talked about how, for me, truly being happy with where I am in this moment, allows me to be able to forgive on a level that I didn't know was possible. I always thought, and I always used to hold on to stuff. Oh, they did this. And then the more I start to honestly honor myself and forgive myself for stumbling and making mistakes along my way, I find I grow more empathy to when I see other people stumble. And when I see other people show up and maybe they're not the best version of themselves. And I go, yeah, that's hard, eh? And you kind of empathize on the level where, yeah, you probably disappointed me, but I bet you disappointed yourself more. And
yeah,
like that's kind of the point that I go to why would I hold on to it? You got to figure out, you got to forgive yourself for this. Like for me, it's easy to say how ideally we should act in perfect situations. And we know life is not perfect. So we know we're going to screw up. We know we're going to make mistakes. We know we're going to say the wrong thing sometimes or get triggered sometimes around somebody. So it's being able to watch ourselves, be conscious, and go through that experience with each other. So I think it becomes easier to acknowledge when you see somebody else struggle or not be them perfect selves, to honor that. Hey, that's a moment for you. What you learn from it. What can you do? What can help you in that situation next time?
Because everybody's just trying to do their best. Like, I don't think anybody consciously wakes up every morning and thinks, I'm going to show up as a real dick today. And that's going to be my day. Like,
and if they do,
then maybe some people do. I don't know.
If they do, like, wow, like I honestly feel pity for that.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe there are some people out there who do think my goal today is to make everybody else miserable.
Yeah. And then maybe your mirror you need to hold it to yourself. So that's a great example. Maybe if you're like, oh, I'm going to make that person pay, then it's time to really put the mirror up to ourselves and say, what's actually happening here? Why would I want to create that situation for somebody else?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good first step. Whenever we feel that we're feeling those ill feelings for somebody else, and I'm talking about all of us here, guys, the question pop up and say, why? What is this going to serve? What's my goal here? What is my goal of holding on to this or showing up with this attitude?
Mm-hmm. See, at the beginning, I thought it was really simple. And now I'm like, ooh, this is hard stuff.
Well, it's layered, right? And I think for each situation is so different. So I think the more that we can dissect it or look at what's happening when we're actually forgiving ourselves or other people, then I think the more that we can all honor it and be more present and aware with how we show up. Yeah.
Being curious to the process.
Curious to the process of what's happening for you?
Or I think...
Or for them.
For the forgiveness process. Being... having your awareness and looking in your mirror and... it's just approaching things from a curiosity instead of, oh, this response was good or this response was bad. Being like, well, why? Asking the questions, kind of like what you were saying.
That's good. Yeah. Asking yourself the questions as you go through it. Why is that happening? Why am I going down that thought process? Mm-hmm. What maybe could be a different reaction? What maybe could have been a different reason?
And I guess there's going to be degrees of forgiveness, again, like we mentioned at the beginning, but some things are going to be a lot easier and maybe you'll go through your process a lot quicker of forgiveness. And some things you're going to go back and forth and you're going to be okay with it for a month and then all of a sudden you'll backtrack, and I think that's okay too. Might be jumping ahead, but
no. Yeah. I think that's perfect timing to bring it up. Yeah. So I think in those times it's about, can you forgive yourself for not being able to be done?
There you go. Yeah.
Like for not being able to fully let it go yet.
Yeah.
to have to maybe feel the emotions, go through the process, do that self-digging. Because maybe if there is still that heightened emotion or that triggered response still happening for you, maybe there's still more curiosity that you might need to bring.
Yeah.
It's a great one. Another thing I look at when I go through and I'm in a situation where maybe I don't react or I see somebody else maybe not react in a great way, I usually try to think, because like I feel, you know, whatever you believe in, that's awesome and great. And if it gives you solace, beautiful. I believe whatever it is, the universe, I refer to it as, I always feel in a way that, you know what, maybe it had to serve a purpose. So if I made the mistake, I had to do that. I had to live that to maybe learn something about me. Now, mind you, I could probably go through it 16 times, but until I decide to show up and say, well, what could I actually learn? I feel that that's when the shift is going to happen. So I think if we can go in through the moments of saying, or going in through the moments of mistakes and stumbles and saying, what did I learn about myself here? Or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe it was an opportunity for somebody else to learn something about themselves.
Oh, good point.
You know? And I find that gives me solace.
Yeah.
That makes me lower my back and be like, yeah.
That had nothing to do with me, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to let go and say, you know what? Like, I love it how you said, and I believe in my core that we are just doing the best we can with what we got in that present moment. That's all we got, guys. So the more that we can recognize how that's hard sometimes, and we're all going to stumble, we're all going to make mistakes. So if we can create a space for each other that can make those mistakes and not feel too much shame or not feel too much anger or not feel too much bitterness, and just, okay, what can I learn? Coming to the place of curiosity, maybe. Maybe it's curiosity of, what did I get from that? What did I understand? Maybe it was somebody else's mistake, but what did that confirm for me? Maybe.
And I think what I got from what you said there was the whole concept of forgiveness. It really lends itself to being a practice and not just, something that you just do. It's a practice. And maybe whether it has the spiritual element in it, which mine very much does, and that's my background, and however you choose kind of to label it. I think, religion obviously has a big forgiveness element to it, the spiritual practice, or however you choose to go about this. It is going to be a practice, and you're going to screw up, and you're going to figure it out as you go, and it's going to get easier. And
I love it that you always bring it back to these tools and we talked about yoga, we talked about meditation, and we talk about forgiveness. And I love it that you take something so simple and you make me go, it's right. It is a practice. It's a practice. And that doesn't mean you're going to get it right all the time.
Yeah. And it lends itself to creating your practice however you need it to be too, right? It doesn't have to be
this one linear path.
Yeah. I think of Christianity, and you go to oh my goodness, this is not my area of strength, but you go to the little booth. We might want to edit this part.
Hold on, no, I know this. Confessional booth, or something like that.
Yeah. But that is the same. It is the same concept.
Yeah.
You go and do your confessions, and
to let it go.
And I mean, however you look at it, that's asking for an external force to come in, or somebody else to say, no, you're free to let this go, or whether you go through it yourself in your
Or like even the karma philosophy, right?
Oh, yeah. Very good. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you show up and do something bad, then it will deal itself out.
Yeah.
So then you're probably going to show up and try to do more good
Yeah.
to counteract something that you've done. So
Yeah.
I think it all has that in there somewhere. You're right. It's not my area of expertise either. Religion, basically, or, you know, particular beliefs. But I think it's rooted there because it's such a thing.
Yeah. It's universal, really.
And that's it. So it's universal and acknowledged that if we don't let it go, shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that bad stuff being either stress in your body, manifesting in many different ways. So aches, pains, sores, headaches, joint pain, back pain, foot pain, yada, yada, yada.
Food allergies.
Well, reactions,
Yeah.
so many different stuff. And that's just with you inside of you. That's not even talking about you showing up in your relationships. So if I have, prime example, if I, in my relationship, showed up with all my baggage from all my other relationships in my past, then my relationship would be destined to be bitter and fail.
And probably have that same baggage.
Yeah. And if I'm showing up with almost, because it's toxicity is what I'm linking it to, right? If I show up with that negativity fermenting, then that's all I'm going to be able to put out. So that's why I come to the fact, and that's exactly why I wanted to have the conversation today, is letting it go. It's just healthy for ourselves and for every single person we interact with.
That's because even if you're having a crappy day and you show up to get your Starbucks and they screw up your order, and then you react negatively to that, to the person who made your order, you don't understand either how that's then maybe taking them down a certain path. Like we're all so interconnected that not only like our close personal relationships, if you kind of snap on a stranger, we don't know what that then unfolds for them.
What it's going to trigger throughout.
Yeah.
So being able to look at that, like consciously be aware how I show up and interact, that has it's funny to say, but I want to say it has a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
Or bigger impact.
Yeah.
I always go back to, now I got a couple of quotes that I wrote down with forgiveness, but Nelson Mandela, I think it was, who said about resentment, and he totally links, like this is the thing I always say in class, is resentment is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because we're thinking about it. We're telling that story over and over and over and over again in our head, how it was not just, it was not right, this was wrong. And they probably don't even have a clue what's happening. So you're allowing all that negativity to fester in your body, creating negative energy or whatever concept you want to touch onto it. And they're not even aware.
I like that.
Yeah, it resonates for me.
Yeah. And again, whatever you believe, but my belief is that our purpose on earth, and again, this could be a whole nother topic on why we're here, but our purpose on earth is how close can we get to kind of true love or our true authentic self? And I'm not using love in the romantic sense, but love being kind of the purest whole energy, light on the planet. How close can we get to that, to be these expanded beings and not this collapsed version of ourselves? And again, because, sorry, you threw out a quote, which then triggered me to quotes, and because I also love quotes, and I think it's a Rumi quote, but our purpose is not to seek love outside of ourselves, but all of the barriers that are preventing us from getting to it from within ourselves. And again, I butchered this beautiful Rumi quote, but
that's the essence that you take away.
Yeah. It's like, what are their barriers inside of us that are holding us back from being our most expanded beings?
But that goes on so many levels. Like, I feel that is the self-love journey. What's preventing you? What's getting in your way? What is your ego laying down for you to get trapped in or derailed from, to truly loving yourself, or happiness? You can use it on any different level.
Exactly. Yeah. Slot whatever word you need in there. Yeah.
And that's it. So like happiness, I always go back to, and I don't know who to credit for this, but when I remember, I'll definitely make note of it and I'll bring it up again. But I heard, and it stuck with me like a couple of years ago, we have the capacity to be our truest, happiest selves right now, right at this moment, right here. So we can allow our brains to attach, only when I finish my degree, only when I get married, only when I find that perfect person. No, only when I have that perfect job, that perfect house, will I feel this happiness. Only when, here's the big one, I win the millions. Only when I have all the money straightened out.
Only when I lose the weight.
Yeah. Then I will feel happy. Yeah. But the crazy concept is, we have that happiness right there. It's like in us, waiting to be felt, but we keep pushing it away. It's like, in a way, do we forgive ourselves or love ourselves enough to just feel it?
It's that choice word again, too. That just, I was like, yeah, it's a choice.
I know we talked about forgiveness being this episode, but I'm wondering if it's choice, like talking about every single thing we do, every single thing we feel, everything we have, every thought we have. It's a choice. And sometimes we don't realize that it's our choice. What thoughts are happening, what thoughts we allow to happen continuously, that's a choice.
Yeah.
So forgiving somebody or thinking they are the big, baddest, meanest person on earth, that's a choice. Thinking they are the person that's standing in front of your happiness, they are the person preventing you from living and loving yourself, that's a choice. So then my question comes to, why the hell do we keep giving our power away to other people?
Yeah. Humans are funny, aren't they? Yeah.
And it's so easy to talk about it. And in the moment, we all do it. We all find it difficult to let go. Let go. We're just all, spiritual beings, which is said, having that human experience. Let go. Allow people to honor themselves, to make mistakes. Allow ourselves to honor one another, honor ourselves, to make a mistake, let go, get up, and try again. It's funny, as kids, it's so easy, right? Like, think about walking, or trying something new. They're the most tenacious beings. Get it up, trying again and again. How many times did you fall down when you tried to walk? And we're like, no, we got this. We got it.
Or you see kids dancing. They don't care what they look like. They're just loving the music and dancing. And then the rest of us are like, ooh, people might think I look funny if I'm doing this. Or
So about forgiving that idealized image that we feel it needs to look like or go by, or even forgiveness, forgiving ourselves and realizing it's not a linear process. I need to feel it, and I need to maybe just consciously show up and be there in that moment.
And you know what I think, that talking about children, they are experts about being in the moment, right? So they don't have all of these stories and lenses which they're viewing everything through.
Which technically I feel taints it.
Yeah.
Like they have a more purist image. So in a way, maybe forgiveness, another aspect, is being more like a child.
Childlike. I totally think that's part of it.
Yeah. Letting go of how you feel the story should have went.
Yeah.
And being present. Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that what it's about?
And even like so if you're stuck in your story, and which maybe has led you to well, I think it can manifest as a lot of things, but let's say depression, for example. So like showing up like a child and just dancing for yourself. You know, they're for walking, they're getting up and they're trying and trying again. And like, we go and try something new and we fail once and we're like,
I'm not meant to do it.
Yeah, I'm not meant to do this anymore. So if you're stuck in your story and maybe in somewhat of a compromise mental state, I'm trying to use that to kind of encompass everything. That might not be the right way to do it, but just showing up for yourself, like just instead of go for the exercise, go to the yoga class, go for a hike, go dance by yourself. Nobody's watching you.
And even if they are, that's their
dance there, yeah. And just showing up for yourself and making that small step first to kind of get past that.
And forgiving when you haven't. So if we could just be in that present moment, this is what I'm taking away from today, is if we can live in that present moment, let go of how we've done things in the past or how we're anticipating to do things in the future. If we can just be in that conscious present moment and just let it be. Do things that make you smile. Be conscious how we treat people. Conscious when we're talking to each other, be present. Then that big Santa sack that we hold all those judgments and resentments in, like wouldn't we be lighter?
Yeah.
And talking about your light and love earlier, wouldn't we show up with more of that essence? As self-aware as I feel I believe I am 100% times is still struggling. It's like, that's life, right? So it's realizing that when you think you've reached a self-awareness that it all dissolves and disappears, no, it's a choice to continue to show up and put this energy in, to continue to challenge yourself and honor yourself and forgive yourself and show up for yourself. So,
yeah, that's why I like using that practice word, because even, you know, Olympic athletes or people who are at the top of their game in athletics, they still screw up sometimes, and they have to practice to maintain that level of skill. And it's not just once I get to this point, now I'm done, now I'm enlightened and nothing bothers me, and no, we're still in traffic and get triggered, and
we're still in society. Which I feel the more tools we can take away, the more tools we can learn, which is why this podcast exists. And I think many others out there, to spread the tools, to spread the conversation of you're not alone. It can be really crippling and it can be really hard at times. And it's about showing up, trying a tool, and trying to get past.
Yeah.
You know, I think one more quote I'm going to bring for today, because on the quote line, as soon as you said Rumi, I'm like, Wayne Dyer. So Wayne Dyer is one that I'm going to bring to the table right now. And this is a good one we'll make some comments and then we'll wrap her up. But he says, how people treat you is their experience. How you treat them is yours. So I think sometimes we can get so caught up. They were mean to me, you know, especially past relationships or, whatever type of relationship. They were mean to me. They were judgmental. They betrayed me. So it's okay that I show up with that negativity or toxicity. And then I say, well, is that the person who you want to be?
Yeah.
You know, so when I feel that I'm getting on my soapbox, well, they were mean to me, so I can be mean to them. And then I go, chill. That was their journey. How I react, how I interact with them, how I move forward. That's my piece. That's what I can own. That's what choice I can make. And that's the only thing.
Bring your best self to that.
Yeah, attempt to every day.
Yeah.
So guys, like I said, not a recipe today of how-to or quick fixes. Just wanted to hold this space and have a conversation about forgiveness, about when we don't do it, what can happen, the stresses, the things we can manifest, the negativity, the deterioration of relationships, and then how about being able to be self-aware, be present in the moment, and try our best to forgive each other, forgive ourselves, have empathy with each other, have empathy with ourselves, and just trying to let go, show up, be the best version of ourselves, and move on. So, Lindsay, anything else you want to add to the show today? Any comment you want to leave them with? Us with?
No, I think I'm glad to have been here. I feel like it was just a good conversation and realize that we're all just human and, again, doing our best. So it's kind of nice to know that you hold a nice space for people to come in and realize that they don't have to be perfect, right? And we can do things and screw up and figure it out. And yeah, it's just a nice space to be in.
Thank you. And isn't it a choice?
A choice. Yeah, that's my word from today.
That's your takeaway.
Yeah.
And that's all of ours. Like, we can choose to show up for ourselves, for each other, and have conversations, have supporting conversations, have hard conversations, and choose to show up.
Yeah, you even bring up one more good point, I think, is that have the conversations around these topics, and then it makes it less, the stigma around it's removed, right? Like realizing like, oh, you're struggling with that too. Like, this isn't something that I should, find so easy and
or this isn't something I should be judging myself so harshly. Because I feel that that's something we all do. We're all so good at. We stay in our separate corners and we say how easy it is for them over there.
Yeah.
When in reality, we have no conscious idea.
Yeah.
And the more that we can show up and have these honest conversations, I think the more we actually support that light and love that you are actually talking about.
Yeah.
So guys, as always, it's been a fantastic trip and a fantastic journey. Lindsay, always so appreciative for you to come in, just be so present and be willing to go wherever the conversation leads us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, that is a wrap on today. Sorry, we didn't give you the tips and tricks of how to forgive, but today's purpose was to hold space and have a conversation with, it's hard. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with everybody around you. The more we can empathize and support each other, I think the easier it becomes to actually let go and show up and be our best versions of ourselves. So good luck. Honor yourself. Be gentle with yourself and have yourself an absolutely fantastic day. Remember, it always is a choice to power yourself.